at 1.35, right?
Correct. Yep.
Welcome, everybody, to the Toronto Sports Rush channel, brought to you by the Bet Rivers Network. My name is Kyle Andrew. This is an instant reaction. There is so much going on in the NHL today. I'm joined once again by Pierre McGuire. Pierre, it feels like it's been hours since I've seen you because it's been hours since I've seen you. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. What an amazing afternoon for the National Hockey League, but in particular for the Toronto Maple Leafs, for the Vegas Golden Knights, and for the Florida Panthers. Amazing afternoon of hockey.
It's really unbelievable. We've gone from speculative conversation this morning to facts and figures right now, so let's dive right into it. Mitch Marner is a Las Vegas Golden Knight.
Well, I'm not surprised. You and I talked about it this morning. I think the return, obviously, Nicholas Waugh is actually a positive thing, not a negative thing. They don't lose a player for nothing. I know you spoke about that very wisely this morning, Kyle. But to me, the biggest thing is, how does this happen? It happens because Alex Pietrangelo needs at least one surgery and maybe more. So that's $8.8 million on LTIR for next year for Vegas. Nicholas Waugh, $3 million. And don't forget, Nick Hay got traded to Nashville yesterday for Jeremy Lauzon and Colton Sissons. So all this money opened up in Vegas, allowing Toronto and Vegas to sit down and finally culminate the deal. For Toronto, I think it's fantastic. They get a ready-made player. He's a kid that plays with a lot of energy and a lot of pride. He's big, something I know they really cherish in Toronto right now. And let's just say that for whatever reason, Nicholas Waugh plays the third center position or the third right wing position. He's going to help this team a lot. He's a very good penalty killer. He's a character guy. Yes, he's not Mitch Marner. I get it. But a lot of good things happened for the Leafs today by getting a player for Marner.
Couldn't agree more, Pierre. The last month in Leafs land has been just filled with speculation and anger and resentment and all of these things. And it's all come to a head here. And if you're the front office of the Leafs, this is really a chance to turn the page. Not that there should be any ill feelings towards Marner, but he's moved on. The team has moved on. They've turned the page. And the fact that they were able to secure anything for him at this stage in the game, and beyond that, a very good player in Waugh, that should be celebrated by the fan base, by a team that is still very much in the hunt in their conference.
You know, Kyle, another thing, too, we're forgetting this because we're discounting it because Marner's the big, sexy name. Mm-hmm. What about the extension on Matthew Knies? I think that's digestible. It's way under what Brady Tkachuk signed for. And then what about Tavares? Look at the hometown discount on a 4-year deal. Yeah. I think Toronto actually kept traction in the Eastern Conference. I think they kept traction in the Atlantic Division. And quite frankly, I think they eventually will improve themselves to the point where people will say, yes, we lost Mitchell Marner, but look where our team is right now. I'm very excited for Leaf fans. This could have been way worse. Imagine how you'd be feeling now if Tavares checked out of town, Marner checked out of town, and there was a restricted free agent offer to Matthew Knies. Just think about that for a second if you're a Leaf fan.
It's such a good perspective. Tavares did them a colossal favor by taking the hometown discount. They've now freed up a ton of cap space, which they could use very wisely. And as it was said this morning by yourself, Pierre, replacing Marner's points, it's not up to signing one guy that can do that. This will be by committee on a team very, very capable of redistributing the offense here. They could, with some shrewd moves, with some coaching, slight tweaks here and there, they could end up a better hockey team next season.
I love what you just said. It brings me back to when I was in Pittsburgh. We made a trade with the Philadelphia Flyers in 1992. Craig Patrick did it. We traded 2 future Hall of Famers, Mark Recchi, who was a big scoring right winger for us, and Paul Coffey, the leading scorer of all time for defensemen. We traded them for Rick Tocchet, Shel Samuelson, and Kenny Reagan. And everybody thought that our team went around the bend. We were crazy. We didn't trade it because we didn't make the trade because we wanted to get rid of Paul or we wanted to get rid of Mark. We wanted to make our team better. And we needed the character of Tocchet. We needed the size of Samuelson, and we needed the backup goaltending of Reagan. And we got it. We had to pay a big price to do it, but we did it. And we won the cup again, back-to-back years. We made our team better. I'm not saying Toronto's going to be better. I'm saying the potential is there for them to be better.
Yeah, I want to be very clear about it. I don't think a hockey team directly gets better by losing a Mitch Marner. That's not all I'm saying. It's not to disparage him, but the fact that they do have such strong offensive pieces already there to pick up the slack, and now all of this cap space with which to work, they may not even need to replace all of those points so much as they need to replace a style of play come playoff time where they're going to have to change their approach, and it does seem they're building in that direction.
It really does. And, we heard this from the general manager, the DNA factor of the team.
Mhm.
This is going to force the DNA to probably go in a different direction. Not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing at all because what they did with the previous DNA didn't clearly work. But you can't discount the greatness of Mitchell Marner. When Mark Hunter took him with the 4th overall pick in 2015, that was a brilliant pick. Undersized guy, eventually becomes an amazing player, makes the all-rookie team, has a phenomenal, phenomenal career as a Leaf. I know fans want to get mad at him because the team didn't succeed. You can't tell me that there were nights when you watched the Leafs where you couldn't say, man, this guy's a special player. I watch every single Leaf game, and there were nights where I'd look at Mitchell Marner and I go, wow, this guy's a fantastic player.
Absolutely. He was a huge part of a very, very good NHL, an elite NHL hockey team over the last few years, and a team growing in strength from day one of his tenure with them. Hats off to you, Mitch Marner. You served the city, you served the team very, very well. But sometimes there's a better fit elsewhere, and he's going to go on to phenomenal things in Las Vegas. He's going to have a nice life out there in that wonderful weather. The guy's never going to see a snowstorm for life unless he's landing on a road game, and that's not a bad thing. It's true though; it's not a bad thing for him. But as you say, we're not guaranteeing the team comes out better, but now there is cap space. There is room to make some maneuvers here where they could. And better only means further in the playoffs. It doesn't mean replacing 102 points. It doesn't mean a lot of these things. It just means better.
I love that. And so one of the things I'd be doing is what do we need to do better? We need to identify the grit factor a little bit better. I think Nicholas Waugh brings some of that grit. We need to add maybe a better puck moving defenseman to our back end. I think potentially you can go out and do that. They're easier to find than gritty, hard, in your face defensemen. So I think the potential is there to make the team better. And I'm also really excited because Stolars will be back. Wall will be a year better in goal. And Berube will be way more comfortable with the roster that I think he'll have a chance to coach. So I'm excited for the Leafs. I'm excited for their fan base. For Mitchell Marner, I'll tell you why I'm really excited. To leave Toronto and Austin Matthews won't be easy because there's not a lot of Austin Matthews around. But you go to Vegas and you play with Jack Eichel, that's about as close as you can get to playing with Austin Matthews.
Yeah, he's moving from one great situation to another. Let's be very clear about that. Las Vegas has been an absolute dynamic team, a threat since they came into the NHL. And it's just such a the Leafs did as well as they could in this very difficult scenario because let's be honest, he wasn't getting dealt mid-season before his contract expired because they were going for it. You don't deal a piece like that when you're in the hunt. And I really like going back to something you had just said a couple of minutes ago, but how now this move forces the rest of the roster to say and check in with the idea that we're moving in a different direction in the style of hockey we play going forward.
Yeah, no, they are. And you'll find out the first minute that Nicholas was on the camp ice to start training camp, you're going to say, okay, we see why they brought this guy here. He's 6'4", he's well over 200 pounds, and he plays like that.
He plays rough.
Yeah, and he has good hands. He has very good hands. So I think people will be happy with that. And I also think he was always put in positions where he's relied on to be a checker and more of a depth player. I think that could change potentially in Toronto. So I'm really encouraged. I'm really excited. And what this also does too, and this is for down the road, I think Easton Cowan's going to be a really good NHL player.
Mhm.
This creates an opportunity for him to be cultivated properly and not rushed into a really difficult situation. So I'm excited for him as well.
Okay, well, let's move on, Pierre, from stories that we prognosticated this morning with some great reporting online by the many wonderful insiders to deals we maybe didn't see coming as well. The Leafs acquired in a trade today Matias Maccelli from the Utah Mammoth for, and I really do want to read out the terms of this deal because it's kind of hilarious, a third round pick in 2027, unless Toronto earns a playoff berth and he gets 51 points, it's then converted into a 2029 second round pick. Did you get all that, Pierre? What can you tell me about Matias
I
Maccelli?
did. He is hockey IQ wise one of the smartest players in the league. His hockey sense is amazing. He's around the puck all the time. Puck is attracted to this player. It's fantastic to watch him play. I'm a huge fan. He was vastly underrated in Arizona. Didn't get enough attention in Utah, obviously. This is a player that's going to come in and potentially could play in the top six as a winger for Toronto. But if he doesn't, he's going to provide amazing depth offense. His hockey, for people in Toronto that are great hockey fans, the thing that will blow you away about Matias Maccelli, his hockey sense is exquisite. He's a brilliant, brilliant player, and he's not intimidated of playing with really star players. So I think that benefits him going into a city like Toronto.
So, I mean, you're talking about this hockey IQ. You're talking about Nicholas Waugh. These are pieces that are exactly what we've been talking about for the last few months that the Leafs need to install to take themselves to the next level. Leafs fans, as far as I can see right now, should be quite thrilled with the events leading up to the free agency period, which opens tomorrow.
Yeah, and you know what? I'm not sure if the Leafs will be able to make themselves better in free agency. I think they could make themselves better through the trade market. We saw a little of that today, obviously, with Marner going to Vegas and a draft pick going for Maccelli. And I think potentially you'll see something else like that going forward. So I'm encouraged again. And I know people in Toronto love to be, negative about where the team is because they haven't gotten to the promised land since
Yeah.
1967. The truth is, this team will continue to evolve and get better. They haven't buried their heads in the sand, which I think in other generations of Leafs situations, maybe they had. They haven't done that with this team. I don't believe that.
I don't believe that as well either, Pierre. And before we continue, I just want to let everyone know watching us live, watching this on replay later. If you like the content, we'd be happy to bring more of it to you. Please like this video. Please subscribe to this channel. But more important, air your rage in the comments. We want to hear it. It helps us make better comment. Let us have it, folks. We don't mind one bit. But yeah, that's another great trade for the Leafs. And let's talk about a player they extended today, Steven Lorentz, 3 years at 1.35 million.
Energy player, depth player, good penalty killer, guy that can really do a lot on the forecheck, physical person, not afraid, loves to play in Toronto. Really good signing. And the biggest part about him, that's so cap friendly. It's amazingly cap friendly.
Yeah, it's definitely worth extending him at that rate. They've got so much cap space left to go right now, too, which, again, we've talked about this in the past. As they move through a season and trade deadlines come up and stuff like that, the situation they've had with the cap previously have really handcuffed them in the deals they can make.
Yep.
If they retain some of this cap space throughout this season or even spend up to it, they're going to be sitting well in either situation. So they could either be making a move preseason to use all the cap space, or they could wait and see what holes need to be filled after the 3/4 way of the season and whatnot. It does give them a lot of flexibility, which they just haven't had the
It
last few
really
years,
does,
have they?
Cal. Could not agree with you more. That's such a relevant point because you need to have cap flexibility going forward, especially if you're one of the elite teams. You say, you know what, we're a little light here. We got an injury on defense, or we're a little light here. We got an injury at right wing, and you can address that at the trade deadline if you have cap flexibility. Great point.
So, I mean, we're in Leafs land discussing this right now, and they have made some moves today. Some were forced on them, which they've done the best they could with the Marner deal. Shrewd trade, shrewd extension. We cannot avoid talking about the defending Stanley Cup champions. They've retained the big three, Pierre. They've retained the big three, and it looks like they all did it for a hometown discount. This is the off season of the hometown discount. Marchand, 6 years, 32. Ekblad, 8 years, 6.1 annual value. Bennett, 8 years at 8 million per. Let's start with Brad Marchand, a 6-year deal for him. How do we feel about that for Florida?
I feel great about it. I'm happy for Brad.
Mhm.
The biggest part about this deal, he doesn't get the money he would have got if he went to market. He gets the extra 2 years. He was probably not looking at more than a 4-year deal. He gets a 6-year deal. It's the same thing, and I feel very comfortable saying this about Aaron Ekblad. If Aaron Ekblad went to market, he was looking at more money but less term. I think these guys, because of the 15% no state income tax, they're really comfortable, staying there. Number one, and number
Yeah.
two, they love their teammates, and number three, and this is really important, they're part of something special. They got a chance to three-peat, and that's something that you can't just shun at. That's really important. So I think they all understood exactly what they were doing. Bennett obviously was the first domino to fall, then Ekblad, and finally Marchand. I think if Marchand and Ekblad had gone to market, they would have got more money, but they wouldn't have got the same term in terms of
Yeah.
years. I don't believe that.
Yeah, it's true. And what you're saying about the three-peat, that's very rare air in today's modern sports landscape beyond the NHL. Parity across the board is so high. And everything you see on social media, everything you see in the mainstream media, these guys really like each other, don't they? Like they're a tight-knit group of guys. And it seemed like Marchand joined that team and he was instantly one of the leaders.
What's amazing about that is how much they detested him when he played for Boston. Bennett knocked him out last year with a shot in the face right in front of the bench in Boston. I mean, it's unbelievable. Now they're best buds. It shows you how much they respect Brad. Matthew Tkachuk respects him. Barkov respects him. Obviously, his line mates, Lundell and Luostarinen, have so much respect for him. But I think it's a whole team thing. And I love what Aaron Ekblad said. And I'm going to paraphrase what he said today. I was drafted by Florida #1. I've played for them my entire career. I've sacrificed my body for them. I've bled for them. I've won with them. I want to stay with them. I'm paraphrasing, but that's basically what he said. That says a lot about the character of Aaron Ekblad and how proud he is to be a Florida Panther.
And you just, we've spoke about Tavares twice now today, but those types of guys are the structure in the nucleus of
Yes.
championship winning teams. That type of attitude. And it's not a call, listen, you're a professional athlete. You never know when this ends. You should get as much money as you can. But they're signing with players they like playing with, players they're familiar with. They get to step into camp next year. They're not learning anything new. They know the guys beside them. They know what they're doing. And we're not scoffing at the amount of money all these guys signed for. Talk a little bit about Sam Bennett. He was never really a free agent, was he? He was never going
No,
anywhere. It certainly
I
seems
believe
that
he
way.
was always part of what I thought kept Sam Bennett there. When everybody else doubted Sam Bennett, that he was a flop as a first round pick and that he wasn't as good as everybody said, the Florida Panthers proved that wrong. They gave him the opportunity to change his role. They created an opportunity for Sam Bennett. They were loyal to Sam Bennett. They stood by him, and you see the finished product. It's an amazing product. And so I think he respected that about the Florida Panthers, their ownership, led by Mr. Viola, and obviously the upper management, led by Billy Zito. And I think Paul Maurice went in there with his coaching staff, with Tuomo Ruutu, with Jamie Compon, with Sylvain Lefebvre. I got to tell you, Kyle, they went in there. They did a masterful job. This is all about team. They've created an amazing brand down there. They've created amazing teammates as well. They've created an unbelievable situation in South Florida. They really have.
What I find so fascinating, Pierre, about the off-season events that have up till this exact moment, in fact, is Florida's the defending champion. Toronto gave them the best go in this year's playoffs. Game 5 and 7 aside, they took them 7 and no one else did, and it was almost 3-0. We're not rehashing that for the second time today. I just got over the first conversation. But but what is interesting about this is now we know Florida is functionally going to be running back the same hockey team. The Leafs will be making more changes, and it seems like those changes are so very much geared towards addressing the Florida Panthers problem. The moves they're making, the size they're adding is directly, and there's comments and there's talk about, well, they can't do the power play in the playoffs. It's not the number one issue. The number one issue is the style of play against a Panthers team, because this conference, this league goes through South Florida, does it not?
No question about it. Absolutely does. There are a couple things. Leafs need to focus on face-off improvement, especially when there's tied situations or scrambled draws, how they're going to insulate their centerman. They need to focus in on how you're going to adapt to that very vicious physical forecheck of the Florida Panthers. They can address that in training camp in the entire next season. How are you going to pay them back and force them to overcome your physical, fast, hard forecheck? And when you do all these things, how are you going to make sure you sustain momentum? One of the things that was really apparent, even when the Leafs got a lead in any one of the games they played Florida, even when they won, they couldn't sustain the momentum of the game.
Yes.
The only game they were able to do that in was game 6. And even then it was touch and go for a while. But those are little lessons they need to learn for next season when they play any of the elite teams in the league.
And Pierre, you just picked off a couple of very, very small details and finer points of the game. That's how close this hockey team is. Despite the doom and gloom at the way the season ended, there is plenty to look forward to in Leafs land. And day one of this crazy off season's technically tomorrow. This has been wild. This has been a wild day. And I really do truly believe that for the Leafs to get full satisfaction here, they do need to beat Florida in the playoffs. It has to go down like that. It feels like we're here at the end of June and everything is pointing towards a rematch like next year. And I'm absolutely here for it if it could happen.
That would be awesome. Let's go. I'll sign up. Let's go.
Yeah. So what are the future? I got to check the Bet Rivers props right now for a couple of things. What are the chances these two teams are meeting again next year in the playoffs? And what's the likelihood of Maccelli getting 51 points? Because that's going to change the 2029 draft for some reason. So
Pierre, no, you know what, though? I'll tell you one thing right now. I think Maccelli will get more than 51 points.
Which, back to this whole replacing Marner's points by committee, what an incredible pickup that would prove to be. And then that's literally half of the points right there. I wonder if there's some sort of tie there. These analytics guys are just too much for me right now. Can't keep up anymore. But what a crazy day, Pierre. It was so great to sit with you here twice. I want to very quickly thank the behind the scenes people, Monzo, Shane, Max, everyone at Toronto Sports Rush and Bet Rivers as a whole who was able to help us put this live show together again so shortly after we taped this morning. We appreciate you, and we're happy to bring you this type of content. There's going to be a lot more cut-ins. There's going to be a lot leading into the next season. Very, very exciting times in Leafland. Wouldn't you agree, Pierre?
I totally agree. Thank you so much to everybody behind the scenes for making this work for Kyle and I. Really, they're special. Thank you.
All right, everyone. Thanks for joining us once again on Toronto Sports Rush. This has been a live reaction to the news of the day, which was plentiful, the least of which, of course, Mitch Marner sign and trade, 8 years, $12 million, heading out to Las Vegas. And in return, a great player when we thought we'd get nothing, Nicholas Waugh on his way to Toronto. The Leafs are rebuilding for another run at the Florida Panthers, who are running back the big three down there. What a day it's been. Thanks for watching, everyone.